I pulled into the driveway of my mountain lodge that Friday evening, exhausted from the 3-hour drive from Denver. My shoulders ached from hunching over design mock-ups all week, and I desperately needed this escape. But as I rounded the final bend, I saw multiple cars I didn't recognize. Smoke rose from the chimney. Lights glowed warm in every window. Before I could even pull my keys from the ignition, the front door opened. My younger sister Amanda stood there, her face twisting from shock to fury. Behind her appeared her husband Mark and an older couple I'd never met. Amanda's voice cut through the mountain air like a blade. "What do you want, parasite? I'll call the police." Something strange washed over me then, a calm I couldn't explain. I looked her straight in the eye and said, "Go ahead if you can." Then I walked right past her into the living room. My grandmother's furniture had been rearranged. Their belongings covered every surface. Family photos hung on the walls. But I wasn't in a single one. They had been living here. For how long, I couldn't tell, but this wasn't a weekend visit. This was a takeover. "What is this?" I turned to face Amanda, trying to keep my voice steady. "What are you doing in my house?" Amanda's initial shock had transformed into something uglier, confidence. She crossed her arms and tilted her head with that familiar, condescending look I'd seen since we were kids. "Your house? You abandoned this place for 2 years, Lily. You told me I could use it." "That's a lie." My heart hammered against my ribs. "I was here 6 months ago. I never said you could live here." Mark stepped forward, placing a hand on Amanda's shoulder in a gesture that looked supportive but felt calculated. "Look, let's all calm down. Maybe there was a miscommunication." "There was no miscommunication," I said, my voice rising despite myself. "This is my property. I inherited it from Grandma Dorothy 5 years ago." The older man cleared his throat. He was tall, gray-haired, with a face that suggested authority. "I'm Gerald, Mark's father. I'm a retired judge, and I have to say, possession is 9/10 of the law, young lady." A retired judge. Of course they'd brought someone who sounded official. I felt the first flicker of real fear. "I don't care about possession," I said. "This is legally my property. I have the deed, the will, everything." Amanda's smile was pure venom. "Actually, funny you should mention paperwork." She walked to a drawer in what used to be my grandmother's writing desk and pulled out a folder. "I have paperwork too." She spread documents across the coffee table. A quitclaim deed with my signature, dated 18 months ago, transferring the property to her. Utility bills in her name going back 8 months. A notarized letter, supposedly from me, giving her permission to live here permanently. My hands shook as I picked up the deed. The signature looked like mine, nearly perfect, but I had never signed this. Never. "This is forged," I whispered. "That's a serious accusation," Gerald said, picking up the documents with the practiced ease of someone who knew his way around legal papers. "These look quite official to me. Notarized, filed with the county, all in order." "Because they're fake!" I shouted. Amanda pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police. You're trespassing and making wild accusations." "Go ahead," I said again, that strange calm returning. "Call them." She did. We stood in uncomfortable silence, Amanda smirking, Mark watching me carefully, Gerald examining the documents, and the older woman, presumably Mark's mother, hovering nervously in the doorway. When Sheriff's Deputy Tom arrived 20 minutes later, I felt a surge of relief. He knew this property. Small mountain town, everyone knew everyone. "Evening, folks," he said, taking off his hat as he entered. "Got a call about a disturbance?" "Yes." Amanda jumped in immediately. "This woman broke into my house and is claiming it's hers. She's my sister, and she's been having some problems lately. I think she might be having a breakdown." "That's not true." I turned to Deputy Tom. "Sir, this is my property. I inherited it from my grandmother Dorothy 5 years ago. I have my keys. My driver's license has this address on it. I can show you everything." I fumbled for my wallet, showed him my license. He nodded slowly. "This is the old Henderson place, right? Dorothy was your grandmother?" "Yes," hope flared in my chest. "I'm sorry for the confusion, officer," Amanda said smoothly. But my sister transferred the property to me 18 months ago. I have the deed right here. She handed him the forged documents. Deputy Tom examined them, his face neutral. Gerald stepped forward, introducing himself as a retired judge, lending weight to Amanda's claims. He pointed out the notary seal, the filing date, the official stamps. "Ma'am," Deputy Tom said to me, "do you have your documentation with you?" "No, it's in my safety deposit box in Denver. But this is my house. I was just here 6 months ago. Do you have any proof of that?" I didn't. I'd come alone, hadn't taken photos, hadn't told anyone. Why would I need proof of visiting my own property? "Look," Deputy Tom said, "this appears to be a civil matter. You folks need to sort this out in court. I can't remove anyone from a property when there are competing ownership claims." "But those documents are forged." "That's something a judge will need to determine. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave peacefully." "Leave? This is my house. If you refuse to leave, I'll have to arrest you for trespassing." His hand moved toward his handcuffs. Amanda's smile widened. I felt the world tilting. "Fine," I said. "I'm leaving. But this isn't over." As I walked toward my car, my phone rang. "Mom, thank God." "Mom, you won't believe what's happening," I answered. Amanda called me. Her voice was cold. "Why are you harassing her? She told me you gave her the lodge because you never use it. Why are you being so selfish now?" My breath caught. "What?" "Mom, no. She's lying. She forged documents and stole my property." "Don't be ridiculous, Lily. You have your career and your city life. Amanda needs this. Her marriage has been struggling, and this was supposed to be a fresh start for them. Why can't you just be happy for her?" "Mom, please listen to me." "I don't want to hear it. You're acting crazy." She hung up. I sat in my car in the driveway, hands shaking so hard I could barely grip the steering wheel. Through the window, I could see them watching me. Amanda was smirking. Mark had his arm around her. Gerald was pouring himself a drink from my grandmother's liquor cabinet. They had planned this. Every detail. The forged documents, the fake bills, poisoning my own mother against me. How long had they been setting this up? But I had the original will, the original deed. Everything was in my safety deposit box. I'd go Monday morning, get every document, and prove they were lying. As I drove down the mountain, away from my sanctuary, away from the peace I desperately needed, I had no idea that this was just the beginning. Things were about to get so much worse. Monday morning couldn't come fast enough. I spent the weekend in my apartment in Denver, barely sleeping, researching property law, making lists of every document I had. The moment my bank opened, I was there. The safety deposit box felt heavier than usual as the bank attendant brought it to the private viewing room. Inside was everything I needed. Grandma Dorothy's original will, crisp and official, leaving me the mountain lodge. The original property deed with her name, then my name as heir. The transfer documents from when she died, all properly notarized and filed. Everything was perfect. I photographed every page with my phone, made copies at the bank's copy center, organized everything into a folder. My hands were steadier now. I had proof, undeniable, legal proof. By 10 in the morning, I was sitting in the office of Patricia Reeves, a family law attorney Jenna had recommended. Patricia was 45, sharply dressed, with kind eyes that turned serious as she reviewed my documents. "These are solid," she said after 20 minutes of careful examination. "Original will, properly executed, witnesses, notarization, the whole thing. And this deed transfer is absolutely legitimate. So I can get my property back?" Patricia leaned back in her chair. "You will get your property back. The quitclaim deed your sister has is clearly fraudulent. The signature doesn't match, and honestly, even if it did, we can prove you never intended to transfer the property. But Lily, I need to be honest with you about the timeline." My stomach sank. "How long?" 6 months minimum, possibly a year. Property disputes take time, especially when the other party has filed documents with the county. We'll need to go through proper channels, file motions, possibly go to trial. A year? And the legal fees will be substantial. I'll need a $5,000 retainer to start. Total costs could reach $15,000 to $30,000 depending on how hard they fight. I felt dizzy. $5,000 was most of my savings. But what choice did I have? Okay, I said, let's do it. I wrote the check right there, watching my savings account balance drop to almost nothing. But it would be worth it. Justice took time and money. But I'd win. Patricia started drafting the initial filings that afternoon. I went home feeling cautiously optimistic. 2 days. I just needed 2 days of peace before the legal war began. I didn't get them. Wednesday afternoon, someone knocked on my apartment door. I opened it to find a process server holding an envelope. Lily Henderson? Yes? You've been served. My hands shook as I opened it. A restraining order. Amanda was claiming I'd come to the property and made violent threats against her and her family. She had written statements from Mark, from Gerald, from Mark's mother, Patricia. They all claimed I'd been aggressive, threatening, unstable. The temporary restraining order barred me from coming within 500 feet of the property or contacting Amanda in any way. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks away. I immediately called Patricia Reeves. "This is retaliation," she said after I read her the documents. "They know you're building a case, so they're trying to paint you as unstable. We'll fight it at the hearing." But there was more. That evening, I tried to access my savings account online to check my balance after the attorney retainer. The website showed an error. I called the bank. "Miss Henderson, there's a lien on your account," the representative said. "It's been frozen pending legal resolution." "What? What lien?" "According to our records, a claim was filed by Amanda Henderson, stating you owe her $75,000 for unpaid loans and financial support over several years." "That's impossible. She's lying." "I understand this is frustrating, ma'am, but we have to freeze accounts when legal claims are filed. You'll need to resolve this in court." I hung up and immediately called Patricia back. She sounded as shocked as I was. "She's filed false loan documents? With your forged signature?" "Apparently. How is this legal?" "It's not. It's fraud. But until we prove it's fraud, the bank has to protect themselves." "How much do you have in your checking account?" "About $3,000. That needs to last you until we can unfreeze your savings. Don't spend anything unnecessary." "Don't spend anything unnecessary." I had rent due in 2 weeks. Food. Gas. Life. The next blow came Thursday morning. My boss, Richard, called me into his office. He looked uncomfortable. "Lily, I received a concerning email yesterday." "What kind of email?" "Someone sent information about legal troubles you're having. A restraining order. Claims of harassment." He held up his hands. "I'm not judging. I don't know the situation. But several clients also received this information." My face burned. "Richard, my sister is trying to steal my property. She's making false claims. I'm the victim here." "I believe you," he said, and he seemed genuine. "But I need you to keep this drama out of the office. We can't have clients questioning the stability of our team." "I understand. I'm handling it." But I felt humiliated. Amanda wasn't just attacking my property. She was attacking my reputation, my livelihood, my entire life. The restraining order hearing arrived faster than I wanted. Patricia and I sat on one side of the courtroom. Amanda arrived with Mark, Gerald, and Mark's mother, plus an attorney from an expensive downtown firm. They looked professional, put together, confident. Their attorney presented evidence. Text messages, supposedly from me, threatening Amanda. I'd never sent them. A recording of our confrontation at the lodge. But it was edited. Selective clips that made me sound aggressive, removed all context. Then Gerald took the stand. He spoke smoothly, confidently. He talked about his career as a retired judge, about witnessing my threatening behavior, about his concern for Amanda's safety. He was believable, too believable. The judge, clearly impressed by Gerald's supposed credentials, asked me questions. Had I gone to the property? Yes. Had I been upset? Yes. Had I raised my voice? Yes. Patricia argued that I had every right to be upset when I found squatters in my legal property. But the judge seemed more convinced by Gerald's testimony. I'm granting the restraining order for 6 months, the judge said. Miss Henderson, you are not to go within 500 feet of the property or contact your sister in any way. I wanted to scream. Instead, I sat frozen as they walked out, Amanda glancing back with a satisfied smile. In the parking lot, my phone rang. Mom. I heard about the restraining order, she said without greeting. I can't believe you threatened your own sister. What's wrong with you? Maybe you do need help. Mom, please. She's lying about everything. She stole my property. You sound paranoid. Amanda thinks you might be having a breakdown. Maybe you need to see someone. I'm not crazy. Then why is a judge taking out a restraining order against you? Why are you harassing your sister? She sighed heavily. Don't call me again until you get help. The line went dead. I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel. 3 weeks ago, I'd had a home, savings, a good job, and a family. Now I had a restraining order. Frozen accounts, a family that thought I was unstable, and legal bills I could barely afford. Patricia walked over and tapped on my window. We'll appeal, she said when I rolled it down. This isn't over. But it felt over. Amanda had won. She'd built a perfect case, destroyed my credibility, turned everyone against me. How could I fight someone who was this calculated, this ruthless? As I drove home, I kept thinking about that first moment when I'd walked into the lodge and said, "Go ahead if you can." Some part of me had been confident, but I couldn't remember why. 3 weeks passed in a fog of anxiety and mounting problems. I stayed with Jenna, my college best friend, sleeping on her couch in her small apartment. She was supportive, kind, asking nothing in return. But I felt like a burden. Every day I went to work, trying to focus on design projects while my personal life crumbled. Every evening I came back to Jenna's place, checking emails from Patricia about the legal case. Watching my checking account dwindle. Then Tuesday afternoon, 3 detectives walked into my office. Lily Henderson? Everyone in the open office turned to look. My face burned. Yes? You're under arrest for stalking and harassment. What? I stood up, my chair rolling back. That's impossible. Ma'am, turn around and place your hands behind your back. They handcuffed me in front of my entire office. My coworkers stared. Richard watched from his office doorway, face pale. The walk to the elevator felt like 1,000 miles. At the police station, I learned that Amanda had filed multiple police reports over the past 3 weeks. She claimed I'd been driving by the lodge repeatedly. She had security camera footage showing a car similar to mine. She claimed I'd sent threatening letters. She had the letters. She claimed I'd left threatening voicemails. She had recordings. I didn't do any of this, I kept saying. I have a restraining order. Why would I violate it? That's what we're trying to determine, the detective said. I spent the night in county jail. The cell was cold, the lights too bright, the sounds terrifying. I'd never been in trouble in my life. I curled up on the thin mattress and cried silently, trying not to disturb my cellmate. Jenna posted bail the next morning. $2,000 that I'd have to pay her back. I walked out of the jail into bright sunlight, feeling like a different person. Broken. Dirty. Patricia is meeting us at your apartment, Jenna said in the car. Well, your old apartment. What do you mean, old apartment? Jenna's hands tightened on the steering wheel. Something happened while you were in jail. I'll let Patricia explain. At the building where I used to live, Patricia was waiting with my landlord. The apartment door was open, and it was empty. Completely empty. What happened? I stepped inside, turning in circles. Where's all my stuff? Patricia handed me documents. While you were in jail, Amanda obtained an emergency court order. She claimed she needed to secure her property that you'd been storing. Her property? This is my stuff. Gerald wrote a letter supporting her claim, using his supposed credentials as a retired judge. The judge who reviewed it granted the emergency order. Amanda, Mark, and a moving company came yesterday and cleared everything out. I sank to the floor. My furniture, my clothes, my grandmother's jewelry, family photos, everything. Most of it was destroyed, Patricia said quietly. They claimed it was damaged property from the lodge. Your landlord said they weren't careful. Boxes were dropped, things were thrown around. It looked intentional. I couldn't breathe. 5 years of memories, grandmother's things, irreplaceable items, gone. Can't we do something? We're filing complaints. But Lily, this makes the 4th legal action in less than 2 months. It's getting expensive. How much do you need? Another $3,000 to continue. I had $1,200 left. That was it. Rent was due next week, but I'd already given up my apartment, so at least I didn't owe that. But Patricia needed money I didn't have. Friday morning, I had to face work. I walked in and headed straight to my desk, trying to avoid eye contact with everyone. Richard called me into his office within minutes. Lily, sit down. Saturday I knew what was coming. The arrest made the news. Local news, but still news. Clients are concerned. The partners are concerned. Richard, I'm being framed. My sister forged documents, filed false police reports. I'm the victim. I want to believe you. He looked genuinely pained. But the company can't have someone with pending criminal charges in a client-facing role. We have to protect our reputation. You're firing me. I'm sorry, I really am. I'll give you 2 weeks severance and a neutral reference, but as of today, you can't come back to the office. I cleaned out my desk in a daze. 7 years at this company. Excellent performance reviews. Awards. None of it mattered. That weekend, the financial carnage continued. I discovered Amanda had opened credit cards in my name, using forged documents and identification. 3 cards, all maxed out. $40,000 in fraudulent charges. She'd also applied for personal loans in my name. My credit score had plummeted from 740 to 420. I couldn't rent an apartment. Couldn't get a loan. Couldn't even open a new credit card to survive on. I called the credit card companies, filed fraud reports, but the process would take months. In the meantime, collection agencies were already calling. Sunday evening, I tried calling my mother one last time. She answered, but her voice was ice. I heard you were arrested. Mom, please. Amanda is setting me up. She forged my signature, planted evidence, filed false reports. She's trying to destroy me. You sound paranoid, Lily. Amanda told me you've been struggling with mental health issues for years. She says you've been hiding it. Maybe this is a real breakdown. When did she tell you this? She's been telling me for months. She's been worried about you. She tried to help, but you kept pushing everyone away. Months. Amanda had been building this narrative for months, maybe longer. While I was working, living my life, trusting my sister, she'd been systematically plotting my destruction. Amanda thinks you need psychiatric help, Mom continued. Maybe inpatient treatment. I'm not crazy. Then why is all this happening? Why were you arrested? Why do you have a restraining order? Why are you accusing your sister of elaborate conspiracies? Her voice rose. I never thought I'd raised someone capable of this behavior. Don't call me again until you're ready to get help. She hung up. I looked at Jenna, who'd heard the whole conversation on speaker. Her face was full of sympathy. She doesn't believe me, I whispered. I believe you. But Jenna was one person, one friend against my entire family, the legal system, the police, my former employer, everyone. That night, Jenna's boyfriend came over. I heard them talking in low voices in her bedroom. The next morning, Jenna sat me down at the kitchen table. Lily, I'm so sorry, but Jake is really uncomfortable with everything going on. The police coming here, the legal drama. He's worried about his job, his reputation. I understand, I said. And I did, I'll find somewhere else to go. I feel terrible. Don't, you've already done so much. But where was I going to go? I had $800 left. No job, no family, no home. Couldn't rent an apartment with my destroyed credit. Hotels would drain what little money I had in days. I packed my few remaining belongings into my car. That night, I slept in my car in a 24-hour grocery store parking lot. The next night, in a different parking lot, I used my gym membership to shower. My attorney Patricia called Wednesday. Lily, I need to discuss payment. I don't have it. I was fired. My accounts are frozen. I'm living in my car. There was a long pause. I can't continue without payment. I'm sorry. You can try to find a legal aid attorney, but with the complexity of this case, most won't take it. Another blow. I was losing my attorney too. Thursday, I received an email from my mother's attorney. Helen was cutting me out of her will completely, citing my criminal behavior and mental instability. Everything would go to Amanda. The email also mentioned Helen had filed a petition to have me evaluated for mental competency. If successful, Amanda would be appointed my legal guardian. I sat in my car, reading this email on my phone, and understood. This was Amanda's endgame. Not just to take the lodge, but to take everything. Destroy my life so completely that she'd control whatever was left. I'd lost my home, my job, my savings, my belongings, my family, my friends, my attorney, my reputation. I was homeless, nearly broke, facing criminal charges and possibly federal charges. My health was deteriorating from stress. I'd lost 15 pounds. Couldn't sleep. Constant anxiety. Amanda had won so completely that I couldn't see a way out. That night, parked in an empty lot behind a closed shopping center, I seriously considered just driving away. Leaving Colorado. Starting over somewhere with a new name, a new life. Let Amanda have everything. But then, in the darkness, something stirred in my memory. Grandmother's face, her voice, the hospital room the week before she died. She'd pulled me close, her hand weak but her grip surprisingly strong. "Lily, I'm leaving you the lodge. Not Amanda. Never Amanda." Her eyes had been clear, focused. "She's always been jealous of you. Always wanted what you had. I've seen how she is. I know what she's capable of." I'd started to protest, say Amanda wasn't that bad, but Grandmother had cut me off. "I've made sure she can never take it from you. There are protections in place. If anything ever happens, if she ever tries anything." She'd pulled me closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Remember the blue box. Everything you need is in the blue box." The blue box. I'd completely forgotten. Grandmother had given me a small key 5 years ago, at the reading of the will. A key to a blue metal box. I'd put it on my keychain and never thought about it again. I'd assumed it was just the safety deposit box at my bank, but Grandmother had used a private vault company downtown. I remembered now. She'd mentioned it once, said she didn't trust banks with her most important documents. I dug through my purse, found my keyring. There it was. A small brass key with a blue plastic tag, number 217. I looked up the vault company on my phone. They opened at 9 in the morning. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than despair. Not quite hope, but possibility. I set an alarm and tried to sleep. Tomorrow, I'd find out what Grandmother had left me in the blue box. Whatever it was my last chance. I was parked outside the vault company at 8:30 in the morning, drinking bad gas station coffee, watching the minutes tick by. My hands shook, but not from the caffeine. From anticipation, fear, the last ember of hope. At 9 sharp, I walked in. The place was small, discreet, the kind of establishment that valued privacy. An older gentleman sat behind a desk. "I need to access a box," I said, holding up the key. He checked his records, nodded, and led me to a private room. A few minutes later, he brought in a blue metal box, about the size of a shoebox, and left me alone. My hands trembled as I inserted the key and turned it. Inside was a thick manila envelope with my name written in Grandmother's handwriting, a USB drive, several DVDs in labeled cases, and another smaller envelope marked nuclear option in red ink. I opened the manila envelope first. A letter, dated 1 week before Grandmother died, fell out. "My dearest Lily," it began. I read through tears. Grandmother had known. She'd known Amanda would try to steal the lodge. She'd seen Amanda's jealousy for years. When I was away at college, Amanda had actually tried to convince Grandmother to change the will, to leave the lodge to her instead. Grandmother had refused and started documenting everything. The letter explained that the original will had a special codicil that only her executor knew about, Howard Sterling, her longtime attorney. The codicil stated that the lodge could never be sold, transferred, or given away during my lifetime. It was ironclad. Any attempt to transfer it was automatically void and constituted fraud. If I died without children, the property would go to a conservation trust, never to Amanda. I read that paragraph 3 times. The lodge legally couldn't be transferred. Amanda's quitclaim deed, even if my signature had been real, would be automatically void under the codicil. The envelope contained copies of the original will with the codicil highlighted, legal opinions from 3 separate attorneys confirming its validity, documentation of grandmother's mental competency at the time the will was signed, and a letter from Howard Sterling confirming everything. I pulled out the USB drive with shaking hands. The vault company had a laptop in the room for viewing digital content. I plugged it in. Dozens of files. Emails between Amanda and our mother from years ago, showing Amanda's manipulations. Amanda discussing with a friend how she planned to eventually get the lodge. Financial records showing Amanda had a history of fraud. She'd scammed her college roommate out of $5,000, stolen from a previous employer. Grandmother had hired a private investigator. Text messages between Amanda and Mark from 2 years ago. They'd married specifically because Mark's father had connections they could use. Plans they'd discussed about forging documents. Amanda's exact words. We just need to make her look unstable, make everyone doubt her. Then we take everything. I put my hand over my mouth, reading message after message. They'd planned this for at least 2 years. The DVDs were even more damaging. Video recordings of grandmother explaining everything, providing video testimony. She discussed Amanda's character in detail, her concerns, her decision to protect me through the codicil. She'd also recorded conversations with Amanda, audio only, where Amanda had made incriminating statements about wanting the lodge, about deserving it more than me. All of it was dated, time-stamped, authenticated. Then I opened the nuclear option envelope. The first document made me gasp. Gerald was not a retired judge. He'd been disbarred 20 years ago for forging documents and witness tampering. He'd served 3 years in federal prison. Grandmother's private investigator had found his criminal record, disbarment papers, prison records, everything. The next document was about Mark. His real name was Martin Kowalski. He was wanted in Illinois for fraud and embezzlement from his previous employer. He'd stolen $200,000 and fled to Colorado, changed his name, created a false identity. There was an active warrant for his arrest. Mark's mother, Patricia, had helped him create the false identity. She was complicit in helping a fugitive evade justice. The entire family were criminals. Amanda had married into a family of con artists and become one herself. I sat in that vault room, surrounded by grandmother's gift, and cried. She'd known everything. Protected me completely. This wasn't just evidence to get the lodge back. This was evidence to destroy Amanda's entire scheme and put everyone involved in prison. I made copies of everything, uploaded files to cloud storage, took the originals with me. In the car, I called Howard Sterling, the executor. He was 78 now, retired, but he answered on the second ring. Mr. Sterling, this is Lily Henderson, Dorothy's granddaughter. Lily, I've been wondering when you'd call. You know what's happening? The county recorder sent me a notification when your sister filed that quitclaim deed. I'm listed as an interested party on the property. I've been waiting to see if you'd find the blue box. You knew she stole my property and you didn't tell me? Dorothy's instructions were clear. You had to find the box yourself. It was a test, in a way, to see if you'd remember, if you'd fight. His voice softened. I'm glad you called. I have all the original documents here. I can file an emergency motion to void every document your sister submitted. How fast can we move? I can have papers filed by this afternoon. Emergency hearing by end of week. Do it. There's something else you should know, he said. The codicil was specifically designed to prevent exactly what Amanda is trying to do. Even if your signature on that quitclaim deed had been real, the transfer would be void. The property legally cannot leave your ownership during your lifetime. I laughed through tears. Grandmother had thought of everything. Howard gave me the name of a new attorney, James Crawford, an aggressive property attorney who handled fraud cases. I called him immediately, drove to his office, showed him everything. James, 50-something and sharp-eyed, spread the documents across his conference table. After an hour of review, he looked up at me with something like awe. "This is the most thorough evidence package I've ever seen. Your grandmother was incredible. Can you help me? I'll take this case pro bono. We're going to win. And win big. When this is done, your sister is going to prison." He picked up the documents about Gerald and Mark. "So are they. What about the criminal charges against me? These prove you were framed. The voice recordings your sister submitted are fakes. Your grandmother had forensic analysis done on similar voice modulation software. We can prove the stalking evidence was manufactured. I'll take this to the prosecutor today." By evening, the prosecutor who'd been building a case against me called me personally. "Miss Henderson, after reviewing new evidence, we're dropping all charges against you. I'm sorry you were put through this. We'll be filing charges against your sister instead." I thanked him and hung up, then sat in my car in a parking lot and sobbed. Not sad tears. Relief. Overwhelming, crushing relief. For the first time in months, I could breathe. Grandmother had saved me. From beyond the grave, her love and foresight had given me everything I needed to fight back. Amanda had no idea what was coming. She thought she'd won, thought I was broken, destroyed, out of options. She was about to learn how wrong she was. The emergency hearing was set for Friday morning, 3 days away. James Crawford filed a mountain of motions. Void Amanda's fraudulent deed, restore my ownership, file criminal complaints, sue for damages. Howard Sterling provided sworn affidavits. The private investigator grandmother had hired 5 years ago came out of retirement to testify. But those 3 days were torture. I was still sleeping in my car, still nearly broke, still jobless and homeless. The hope I'd found in the blue box felt fragile, like it could shatter if I thought about it too hard. Wednesday morning, I woke up in my car behind a 24-hour diner and checked my phone. Email from my mother's attorney. The competency evaluation hearing was scheduled for next week. Helen was moving forward with having me declared mentally incompetent so Amanda could become my guardian. My mother truly believed I was crazy. Amanda's manipulation was that complete. I forwarded the email to James. He replied within minutes, "Don't worry, we'll handle it." But I did worry. I worried constantly. Thursday afternoon, James called. "The FBI wants to talk to you about Mark." I gave them the warrant information and evidence of his false identity. "They're very interested. Will they arrest him?" "Probably." I gave them the lodge address. "They'll likely move before the hearing tomorrow." That night, parked in my usual spot behind the closed shopping center, I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow, everything would either get better or somehow get worse. I'd learned not to count on good outcomes. Friday morning, I dressed in the nicest clothes I had left. A blouse and pants I'd been living in for days, washed in the gym sink. I looked tired, thin, worn down. But I was here. The courtroom was the same one where I'd lost the restraining order hearing, but this time felt different. James sat beside me, confident and prepared. Howard Sterling sat in the front row, his presence lending weight to our case. Amanda arrived with Mark, Gerald, and Patricia, plus their expensive attorney. They looked confident, smug. They thought this was just another motion they'd defeat with their lies and forged documents. Amanda saw me and her eyes narrowed. She whispered something to Mark. He glanced over, smiled that condescending smile I'd learned to hate. The judge entered. Not the same judge as before. This one was older, a woman who'd been on the bench for 30 years. She knew Howard Sterling. I saw them nod to each other. James stood. "Your Honor, we're here on an emergency motion to void fraudulent documents and restore rightful property ownership. We have extensive evidence of an elaborate fraud scheme." Amanda's attorney stood. "Your Honor, we've reviewed these motions and they're baseless. My client has proper documentation of ownership." "Let's see this evidence," the judge said. James presented grandmother's will and codicil. Amanda's attorney objected immediately, claiming they'd never seen these documents. Howard Sterling took the stand. He testified as executor, confirmed every document was authentic, explained the codicil in detail. The lodge legally could not be transferred during my lifetime. Any attempt was automatically void. This codicil was specifically designed to prevent what Miss Amanda Henderson is attempting, Howard said. Dorothy Henderson knew her granddaughter Amanda would try to steal the property. She made it legally impossible. Amanda's face went pale. Her attorney was flipping through papers, looking confused. Then, James dropped the first bomb. He presented the forensic handwriting analysis. My signature on the quitclaim deed was forged. Expert testimony, detailed analysis, undeniable proof. Amanda's attorney tried to argue, but James had 3 separate forensic experts who'd analyzed the signature. All agreed it was fake. The judge's expression hardened. Then, James revealed Gerald's criminal history. Your Honor, I need to inform the court that Mr. Gerald Kowalski represented himself in previous hearings as a retired judge. This is false. Mr. Kowalski was disbarred 20 years ago for forging documents and witness tampering. He served 3 years in federal prison. The courtroom went silent. Everyone turned to look at Gerald, his face drained of color. Bailiffs, the judge said calmly. Please detain Mr. Kowalski. 2 bailiffs moved toward Gerald. He stood up, hands raised. There's been a misunderstanding, he stammered. Impersonating a judicial officer is a serious crime, sir. You'll be held pending investigation. As bailiffs handcuffed Gerald, Amanda started to stand, looking panicked. Mark grabbed her arm, pulling her back down. But James wasn't done. Your Honor, there's more. The man sitting next to Amanda Henderson is not Mark Henderson. His real name is Martin Kowalski. He's a fugitive wanted in Illinois for fraud and embezzlement. There's an active warrant for his arrest. The courtroom doors opened. FBI agents walked in. Mark's face went from confident to terrified in seconds. He tried to stand, maybe to run, but the agents were already there. Martin Kowalski, you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and fleeing to avoid prosecution. They handcuffed him right there in the courtroom. Amanda was screaming now, trying to understand what was happening. Mark, what are they talking about? Mark! Ma'am, step back, an agent said to her. Amanda's attorney looked like he wanted to disappear. He was frantically whispering to his assistant, probably wondering how he'd been duped into representing criminals. With Gerald and Mark both being arrested, Amanda stood alone. Her mother-in-law, Patricia, started to get up, probably trying to leave, but James addressed the court. Your Honor, Mrs. Patricia Kowalski aided her son in creating a false identity and evading justice. She should also be detained. Patricia froze. The judge nodded to the bailiffs. They detained her too. Now, it was just Amanda and her attorney, who looked like he regretted every decision that led him to this moment. James presented the rest of the evidence. The text messages showing Amanda and Mark planning the fraud 2 years ago. The emails showing her manipulation of our mother. The financial records showing her history of scams. The audio recordings from grandmother where Amanda discussed wanting the lodge. Every piece of evidence was authentic, documented, undeniable. Amanda's attorney tried to argue, tried to claim the evidence was obtained improperly, tried anything, but he had nothing. Then Amanda snapped. This is ridiculous, she shouted, standing up. You were supposed to just give up. You had nothing. You were broken. Miss Henderson, sit down, the judge warned. But Amanda was beyond reason. Months of planning, of manipulation, of carefully constructed lies were collapsing around her. I deserved that lodge, she screamed at me. Grandmother always loved you more. She gave you everything. I was going to take it all from you. I was going to destroy you. Miss Henderson, you need to stop talking, her attorney hissed, grabbing her arm. But Amanda pulled away from him, facing me across the courtroom. I should have destroyed you completely. I should have. She stopped herself, but the implication hung in the air. Her attorney's face went white. The judge's voice cut through the chaos. Miss Amanda Henderson, you are in contempt of court. Bailiffs, take her into custody. As bailiffs moved toward her, Amanda kept screaming. This isn't fair, it should be mine, you don't deserve it. They handcuffed her and led her away, still shouting threats and accusations. The judge looked at the remaining attorney with something like pity. I'm voiding every document filed by Amanda Henderson. The quitclaim deed is fraudulent. The loan papers are fraudulent. All of it. Lily Henderson is and always has been the sole legal owner of the property. She looked at me. Miss Henderson, I'm sorry the system failed you. You've suffered a serious injustice. I'm ordering Miss Amanda Henderson's immediate removal from your property. Thank you, Your Honor, I managed to say. I'm also referring this case to the district attorney for prosecution. The fraud here is extensive and egregious. Your sister will face serious criminal charges. The judge then looked at Amanda's attorney. I'm referring you to the Bar Association for ethics violations. You filed documents you should have verified were legitimate. He nodded miserably. As the courtroom emptied, I sat there, stunned. In the span of an hour, Amanda's entire scheme had collapsed. Gerald arrested for impersonating a judge. Mark arrested as a fugitive. Patricia detained for aiding a fugitive. Amanda arrested for fraud and contempt. The property was mine again, officially, legally, undeniably mine. James sat down next to me. You won, he said simply. We won, I corrected. Howard Sterling came over, smiling. Dorothy would be so proud of you. You fought. You didn't give up. I hugged him, crying into his shoulder. As we left the courthouse, my phone rang. My mother. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. I listened to it in the parking lot. Lily, I was at the courthouse. I heard everything. Her voice broke. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have listened. Please call me. Please. I need to talk to you. I deleted the voicemail. I wasn't ready yet. James drove me to the lodge. Police had already removed Mark's family's belongings. The property was mine again. I walked through the rooms, seeing the damage they'd done. Stains on the carpet, holes in the walls, trash everywhere. But it was mine. I sat on grandmother's old couch and let myself cry. Not sad tears. Not relieved tears. Something else. Exhausted tears. Victorious tears. Tears for everything I'd lost and everything I'd won back. I'd watched Amanda's world collapse just like I'd promised myself that first day. But it didn't feel as satisfying as I'd thought it would. It just felt like the end of a nightmare. The next 3 months passed in a blur of legal proceedings, rebuilding, and slow healing. Amanda was charged with 19 counts of fraud, forgery, identity theft, and conspiracy. Her bail was set at $100,000. She couldn't make it. She sat in county jail awaiting trial, facing 10 to 15 years in prison. Mark, or Martin Kowalski, as everyone now called him, was extradited to Illinois. He was facing 20 years there for the embezzlement charges. After that, Colorado would add their own charges. He'd be in prison for most of his life. Gerald went back to federal prison for violating parole and committing new crimes. At 65, he'd likely die there. Patricia took a plea deal. She testified against everyone in exchange for 5 years probation. She had to wear an ankle monitor and couldn't leave the state. Her life was ruined too, even without prison time. Amanda's attorney was disbarred for filing fraudulent documents without proper verification. His career was over. My criminal record was expunged. All charges dropped, all arrests erased. Legally, it never happened. The prosecutor handling Amanda's case called me personally to apologize for initially believing her lies. He said she was one of the most manipulative defendants he'd ever encountered. My bank unfroze my accounts. Every penny was returned, plus interest for the inconvenience. The $40,000 in fraudulent credit card debt was erased. My credit score recovered to 730 within 2 months. I sued Amanda's estate for damages. The court awarded me $200,000 in compensatory and punitive damages. Amanda had no assets, but the judgment would follow her forever. Every dollar she ever earned would be garnished until it was paid. I didn't expect to collect much, but the judgment felt good anyway. Richard from my old job called 2 weeks after the hearing. He'd read about the case in the news. He apologized profusely and offered my job back with a $5,000 raise and a promise that I could work remotely from the lodge 2 days a week. I accepted, on my terms. With respect and an apology in writing. The lodge took weeks to clean and restore. I threw out everything Mark's family had touched, repainted, recarpeted, bought new furniture. Some of grandmother's things had been destroyed, but I salvaged what I could. The cleaning was therapeutic. Each room I reclaimed felt like taking back a piece of myself. Jenna came up several weekends to help. She apologized repeatedly for asking me to leave, though I told her I understood. She and her boyfriend had broken up. Turned out he was controlling and she was better off without him. We grew closer through the rebuilding process. My mother was harder to forgive. Helen called me every day for a week after the hearing. I didn't answer. She left voicemails, each one more desperate than the last, apologizing, crying, begging for a chance to explain. Finally, I agreed to meet her for coffee in Denver. She looked older when I saw her, gray hair she hadn't bothered to dye, lines around her eyes that hadn't been there 6 months ago. Guilt-aged people, I realized. "I'm so sorry," she said before I'd even sat down. "I failed you as a mother." I sat across from her waiting. "Amanda manipulated me for years. She told me things about you that weren't true. Planted doubts. Made me question you. By the time you came to me for help, I'd been so poisoned against you that I believed her instead." Tears ran down her face. "I should have known better. You're my daughter. I should have believed you." "Yes," I said simply, "you should have. Can you forgive me?" "I don't know yet. You chose Amanda over me when I needed you most. You thought I was crazy. You tried to have me declared incompetent so she could control my life." I know. She covered her face with her hands. "I've cut Amanda out of my will completely. Everything goes to you now. I canceled the competency petition the day of the hearing. I'm doing everything I can to make this right. It's not about the will, Mom. It's about trust. You didn't trust me." "You're right. I'm so sorry." We sat in uncomfortable silence for a long time. "I'm willing to try," I finally said. "But slowly. This isn't something that heals overnight." "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for giving me a chance." We started meeting once a month for coffee. It was awkward at first. Stilted conversations, long silences, things we couldn't say. But slowly, painfully, we were rebuilding something. It would never be the same as before. That trust was gone. But maybe we could build something new. I never went to see Amanda in jail. I didn't attend her trial. James kept me updated. She was convicted on 17 of the 19 counts, sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. From prison, she sent me a letter, not an apology, a rant, pages of blame and accusations. She claimed everything was my fault. I was selfish for not sharing the lodge. I ruined her life. She deserved the property more than me. It was filled with rage and zero remorse. I read it once and threw it in the fireplace at the lodge, watched it burn. Amanda had learned nothing, felt nothing. She was still the jealous, manipulative person she'd always been. Prison wouldn't change that. I wouldn't waste any more emotional energy on her. She was no longer my sister. That relationship was dead and buried. The lodge became my sanctuary again. I came every weekend. Sometimes I worked from there during the week. The peace I'd been seeking 6 months ago when I first drove up that mountain road finally arrived. I'd wake up to mountain air and birdsong. Drink coffee on the deck watching the sunrise. Work on design projects in the den. Read by the fireplace in the evening. It was everything I'd needed and more. Jenna came up often, sometimes bringing other friends. We were planning her wedding for next summer. She wanted to have it at the lodge. I was honored. One Saturday morning, I drove to grandmother's grave. I hadn't been there since her funeral 5 years ago. I brought flowers and sat on the grass next to her headstone. "Thank you," I said out loud, "for everything, for knowing what Amanda would do, for protecting me, for loving me enough to prepare for the worst." The wind rustled through the trees. I imagined it was her way of responding. I hope I made you proud. I didn't give up. I fought, like you taught me to. I sat there for an hour, talking to her, crying, laughing, remembering. She'd been gone for 5 years but had saved me from beyond the grave. That kind of love was rare. The financial settlement from my lawsuit allowed me to set up a trust in her name, the Dorothy Henderson Trust for Fraud Victims. It provided legal assistance to people who'd been scammed by family members. I knew how it felt to be betrayed by someone you trusted, to have the system fail you. If I could help even one person avoid what I went through, it would be worth it. My life wasn't perfect. The trauma of those months would take years to fully process. I had nightmares sometimes. Anxiety about legal mail. Paranoia about people's motives. But I was healing. Slowly. With help from a therapist I finally could afford. With support from real friends. With the peace of my mountain sanctuary. I'd survived something that should have destroyed me. I came out stronger on the other side. 6 months after the trial, I was working from the lodge on a Wednesday afternoon when I heard a car coming up the driveway. I tensed immediately. Still jumpy from the trauma, but it was just a delivery truck. The driver needed a signature for a package. Legal documents from James Crawford. Inside was the official court order terminating all of Amanda's parental rights. She'd had a 2-year-old son I barely knew existed. Amanda had kept him hidden from the family, probably because she was ashamed she couldn't manipulate him like she manipulated everyone else. With Amanda in prison, the father's family had custody, but they needed legal termination of her rights for adoption proceedings. I signed the form as a witness. That little boy would be better off never knowing his biological mother. She had nothing good to give him. The paperwork included an update on the restitution payments. Amanda was making $7 an hour working in the prison laundry. 25% of her wages were garnished for my judgment. So far, I'd received $63. At this rate, the $200,000 would be paid off in approximately 500 years. I didn't care about the money. It was the principle. Every dollar garnished from her wages was a reminder that actions had consequences. My mother and I had dinner that week in Denver. We'd progressed from monthly coffee to occasional dinners. The conversation flowed more easily now, though there were still topics we avoided. I saw Amanda last week, Helen said carefully. I stiffened. You went to the prison? She's still my daughter, Lily. I can't just abandon her, even after what she did. She tried to destroy me. I know. Believe me, I know. I told her she deserves every year of that sentence. Helen stirred her coffee. She still blames you for everything, says you ruined her life. I didn't ruin her life. She did that herself. I told her the same thing. She won't accept responsibility. The prison therapist says she has narcissistic personality disorder. She's incapable of seeing her own faults. That doesn't surprise me. I only went to tell her I've cut her out of my will permanently. Even after she gets out, she gets nothing. Everything goes to you. I don't want her inheritance, Mom. I want her to take responsibility, to show some remorse, to admit what she did. That's never going to happen. I know. We ate in silence for a while. I'm proud of you, Helen finally said. The way you fought back, the way you survived. I failed you when you needed me. But you saved yourself anyway. Grandmother saved me. Dorothy always was the smartest one in the family. Helen smiled sadly. She knew Amanda's character better than I did, better than I wanted to admit. She loved us both. She just loved us enough to see us clearly. I wish I'd done the same. It was the most honest conversation we'd had in months. Maybe years. It didn't fix everything, but it helped. The seasons changed. Fall came to the mountains, painting the aspens gold and orange. I threw a small housewarming party at the lodge, inviting the few people who'd stood by me. Jenna, James Crawford, Howard Sterling, a few colleagues from work who'd reached out after the truth came out. We drank wine on the deck, watched the sunset, told stories. Howard regaled everyone with tales of grandmother in her prime. She'd been fierce, he said. Brilliant. Uncompromising about protecting the people she loved. She knew Amanda would come after you eventually, Howard said. That's why she set up the codicil. She told me, Amanda has darkness in her. I can see it. She'll try to take what's Lily's. Dorothy spent her last weeks making sure you'd be protected. I wish I'd known her better as an adult, I said. She knew you. That was enough for her. As the party wound down and people left, Jenna stayed to help clean up. You seem happy, she said, washing dishes in the kitchen. I am. For the first time in a long time. You deserve it, after everything you went through. We went through, I corrected. You stood by me when no one else did. That's what friends do. Not always. I learned that the hard way. Winter arrived early that year. The first snow fell in October, blanketing the lodge in white. I took a week off from work and stayed up there alone, reading by the fire, skiing in the nearby resort, embracing the solitude. One evening, sitting on the couch with hot chocolate, I thought about that first confrontation with Amanda, when I'd walked into the living room and said, "Go ahead if you can." I'd been confident without knowing why. Some part of me had remembered grandmother's promise. Even without consciously accessing the memory, I'd known I had protection. I'd known I'd win eventually. Faith, that's what it was. Not religious faith, but faith in the people who truly loved me. Grandmother's love had reached across death to save me. That kind of faith was unshakable. Christmas came. My mother invited me to spend it with her. I agreed, though I was nervous. We'd made progress, but holidays carried so much emotional weight. It turned out to be nice, quiet. Just the two of us. We exchanged small gifts, cooked dinner together, watched old movies. We didn't talk about Amanda. We didn't talk about the trial. We just existed together, slowly rebuilding the relationship brick by brick. This is good, Helen said as we cleaned up after dinner. Us, together, it's good. Yeah, I agreed. It is. New Year's Eve, I was back at the lodge. Jenna had invited me to a party in Denver, but I wanted to be here, to welcome the new year in the place that represented my survival. At midnight, I stood on the deck in the freezing air, watching fireworks from the nearby town light up the sky. I thought about where I'd been a year ago, broken, homeless, facing criminal charges, losing everything, and where I was now, home, whole, victorious. It had been the worst year of my life, and the year I'd discovered my own strength. I'd survived betrayal by my own sister, by my mother, by the system that should have protected me. I'd survived losing my job, my home, my savings, my reputation. I'd survived jail, homelessness, isolation, despair, and I'd come out the other side stronger. Amanda had tried to destroy me and had destroyed herself instead. That was real justice. 3 years have passed since that awful Friday when I drove up to my lodge and found my life had been stolen. Amanda is still in prison. She'll be there for another 9 years. I don't think about her much anymore. She's become irrelevant to my life, a painful chapter that's closed. My relationship with my mother has healed as much as it ever will. We'll never have the closeness we had before. But we have something real. We see each other monthly, talk on the phone weekly. She's trying, I'm trying, it's enough. The lodge has become more than a sanctuary. It's become a symbol of survival, of grandmother's love, of my own resilience. I renovated the master bedroom last year, finally making it completely mine instead of leaving it as grandmother's room. I think she'd approve. The lodge was meant to be lived in, loved, used. Jenna got married here last summer. It was a beautiful ceremony on the deck overlooking the mountains. 75 guests, perfect weather, pure joy. I was her maid of honor. I cried through the entire ceremony, but happy tears this time. My career is thriving. Working remotely part-time from the lodge has given me the perfect balance. City life when I need it, mountain peace when I don't. I was promoted to senior designer last year with a substantial raise. The Dorothy Henderson Trust for Fraud Victims has helped 18 people so far. We've provided legal assistance, connected victims with attorneys, offered financial support for court costs. Every person we help feels like honoring grandmother's memory. I'm dating someone now. His name is Daniel. He's a park ranger who loves the mountains as much as I do. He knows my whole story. I was honest from the beginning. If he couldn't handle my past, better to know early. But he did handle it. He listened, didn't judge, told me I was brave. We've been together for 8 months and it feels real, healthy, built on honesty. The lessons I learned through this nightmare have shaped everything about who I am now. I learned that family isn't always blood. Jenna showed up for me when my own mother didn't. That's real family. I learned that trust must be earned, even from relatives. Amanda was my sister, but she was also my enemy. Being related doesn't make someone safe. I learned that the system fails sometimes. Judges make mistakes. Police believe the wrong person. Justice isn't automatic. You have to fight for it. I learned that documentation is everything. Grandmother's meticulous records saved my life. Now I document everything important. Keep copies. Maintain proof. It's not paranoia if it's learned experience. I learned that I'm stronger than I ever imagined. When I was sleeping in my car, nearly broken, I found the strength to remember the blue box, to keep fighting one more day. That strength was always in me. The crisis just revealed it. I learned that revenge isn't as satisfying as people think. Watching Amanda get arrested and sentenced didn't feel good. It felt necessary. Justice, not vengeance. I learned that forgiveness is complicated. I'm trying to forgive my mother, but I'll never forgive Amanda. Some betrayals are too deep, and that's okay. You don't have to forgive everyone who hurts you. I learned that peace is precious. Having my sanctuary back, waking up in the lodge, feeling safe in my own home, these simple things matter more than anything else. Most importantly, I learned about love, real love, the kind that transcends death. Grandmother loved me so much she spent her final weeks protecting me from a future threat. That's the kind of love that changes everything. Every time I walk into the lodge, I feel her presence. Not in a supernatural way, but in the walls, the furniture, the mountain air. She built this place. She protected it. She gave it to me. And through it, she saved me. If you're going through something similar, if someone is trying to steal from you, manipulate you, destroy you, please hear this. Don't give up. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Find one person who believes you and hold on to them. Fight for yourself even when it seems hopeless. The darkest moment really is just before the dawn. When I was ready to give up, sitting in my car in that parking lot, I remembered the blue box. The answer I needed was waiting for me. Sometimes help comes from unexpected places. And if you're the one planning to betray someone, to steal from family, to manipulate and destroy, remember this. The truth always comes out eventually. Always. You might win for a while. You might think you've gotten away with it, but justice has a long memory and an even longer reach. Amanda thought she'd won. She'd destroyed my life so completely, turned everyone against me, stolen everything I had. But she didn't count on grandmother's love. She didn't count on my strength. She didn't count on the truth. Now she's in prison. Her husband is in prison. His father is in prison. Her marriage is over. Her son doesn't know her. Her mother barely speaks to her. She lost everything she tried to steal and everything she already had. That's what happens when you build your life on lies. I'm sitting on the deck of my lodge right now as I tell you this story. The sun is setting over the mountains. The air is clean and cool. Coffee's getting cold, but I don't care. This is peace. This is home. This is everything Amanda tried to take and everything I fought to keep. The lodge will always be here. Protected by grandmother's codicil, it can never be sold or transferred during my lifetime. When I die, it goes to a conservation trust. It will be protected forever. Future generations will hike these trails, breathe this air, find peace in these mountains. That's grandmother's legacy. Not just the property, but the protection, the love, the foresight. And my legacy will be the Dorothy Henderson Trust, helping others who face similar betrayals, turning my pain into purpose, making sure other victims have the legal help I almost didn't have. 3 years ago, Amanda called me a parasite, threatened to call the police, smirked at me from my own living room. I told her, "Go ahead if you can." Then I watched her world collapse. It took months. It nearly destroyed me. But in the end, I won. Not just legally, but morally, emotionally, spiritually. He got my home back, my peace back, my life back, and she lost everything. That's the power of truth. That's the power of love. That's the power of never giving up. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had someone close to you betray you? How did you handle it? Did you fight back or walk away? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, if it gave you hope or strength or validation, please hit that like button. It helps other people who need to hear this find it. And if you want to hear more stories about survival, justice, and the strength we find when we're pushed to our limits, please subscribe to this channel. There are so many stories of people who fought back and won. You're not alone in your struggles. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear it. Anyone facing betrayal, anyone being manipulated, anyone who feels like giving up. Let them know that others have walked this path and survived. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. Thank you for letting me share the hardest and most triumphant chapter of my life. I hope you find your own mountain lodge, whatever that means for you, your own sanctuary, your own peace, and I hope you never have to fight as hard as I did to keep it. But if you do have to fight, I hope my story shows you that it's possible to win. Even when everything seems lost, even when you're at rock bottom, even when everyone has turned against you, you can survive. You can fight back. You can win. Never forget that. Take care of yourselves, protect what's yours, trust your instincts. And remember that real love, the kind that matters, never dies. Until next time.